Okay, John Anthony, what is on the rundown?
Well, what if you own an EV in this frigid sub-zero weather?
Well, then you should enjoy 3 hours of charging time if the charging station even works. How about that? If you haven't seen the stories, we may share them again next hour if we have time. The EVs are just getting destroyed in this weather across the entire Midwest. There are reports that started out of Chicago, but the Kansas City Star picked up it as well, that EVs are losing up to 40% of their battery in this weather. They just don't work. And then when you try to charge them, the charging stations are not working. There was one guy who went to the airport and he came back and his car was dead. So he's got to get it towed because there's literally, it's not like a dead battery where then AAA can come out, put in a new battery or whatever it might be. That's not going to happen. You've got to find a charging station. And, a lot of places just don't have them still. So this is something to me that, and they're picking on Tesla right now because the media loves to pick on Tesla because they don't like Elon Musk. But all these companies are making EVs. And I would never, you couldn't twist my arm into an EV. I don't care if you gave me a $10,000, $15,000, off MSRP. I'm not buying an EV. I just lived through a week of negative 10 degrees. I got to get up. I need a car that's going to be reliable at 4 in the morning. I actually replaced my battery last week. It was 4.5 years old. So I'm like, you know what? Before this cold weather, let me replace my battery. Couple $100, peace of mind. My car was going to be out at Arrowhead on Saturday night. So I'm like, let me just get a new battery. Last thing I need is to worry about getting out to the car at Arrowhead and, whoa, boy, car's not working. Can I get a jump? But if you had a Tesla, I would be curious if that happened to anybody out at Arrowhead. Not that there's a lot of Tesla drivers out there that I've seen, but it's not impossible that somebody came back out to their car after that game and their car was dead. And by the way, good luck getting it charged anywhere, John. It's not going to happen.
Spin the wheels coming off of the side street, and all of a sudden you've used all your battery.
Yeah, bingo. What's next on the rundown, my man?
What if Trump were to select Nikki Haley as a VP running mate?
Well, then I think he would give himself an opportunity to win over some of the disenfranchised suburban voters who voted for him in 2016 and then did not vote for him in 2020. That's what it would accomplish. Now, I know because I saw the responses on our Facebook page yesterday when Kevin Yoder brought this up at this very time on the show yesterday. Kevin brought up the idea of Nikki Haley as a VP candidate. And I put it up on our Facebook page, and a lot of you hated it. A lot of people who would consider themselves MAGA did not like it. However, if it gets you some votes that you might not otherwise get, does it make sense? And let's be honest, VPs don't set the agenda for anything. They are government-funded pretty faces. That's what they are. They don't do a lot. They're there. They're available to the president, but they're not, for the most part, setting policy, determining policy, especially, Trump's not going to take that from his VP anyway. That's not what he's looking for. But if it helps you win an election, is it worth considering? The best part is when I get the reaction on this on the text line or on Facebook or it's on our Instagram as well. Just search KCMO Talk Radio. It's one side or the other. Some of you love it and some of you hate it. Here's my question. For those of you that hate it, are you actually not going to go out and vote for the guy in November with his name on the ballot up against Pops? Come on, man. You tell me. Are you really not going to do that? Because something tells me you still are. But then if it sways some voters with the understanding that she's not there to really do anything outside of help you win an election, is that the worst thing in the world? Someone brought it up this morning. They said, hey, Pete, well, I'm afraid that she would backstab him once they got into, D.C. Well, that's quite an insult to Donald Trump to suggest that he would not know if his own VP was backstabbing him. I think he would go into this theoretical second term, much more aware of his surroundings, how the game is played, and what he actually has to watch out for and what he has to keep an eye out for than he did back in 2017 when, as an outsider, he was a little naive to just how big the government is and how there was an entire government establishment that was not looking out for him and, frankly, was working against him. So that's how I would look at it, and that's why I think it's at least open to conversation, and Trump's own people have been open to that conversation, John.
What if Clay County missing out on the Royals was the best thing for them?
Well, they are then going to save a tremendous amount of money for their taxpayers. And I'm starting to think that it was, by the way, the best thing for them. Now, I know there were a lot of people with a lot of skin in the game who wanted to see the Royals go up north. And that North KC site, the old bowling alley, is a really cool site. And it would have been a nice site for a ballpark. You know, you got chapels right around the corner. You got a lot of those new apartment complexes, one in particular that I'm blanking on the name, going up right around the corner. There's just a lot happening there in North Kansas City. However, if the ask was as big as the ask is perceived to be, and the reports yesterday that we saw, I guess this was actually 2 days ago, from some Clay County commissioners, I mean, enormous. Jason Withington put on his social media that the Royals asked Clay County for $700 million. They asked North Kansas City for $350 million. And then the state of Missouri for another $300 million. That's over $1.3 million the Royals wanted from the city, the county, and the state. $1.3 billion. I mean, what were they chipping in? $7? If that is actually the number that the Royals were asking for, then in many ways, I think Clay County did its taxpayers a service, a solid, by saying, we want to have you guys up here. We know we got to kick in something. We understand the way the game is played with these stadiums, but that is a monster ask of the taxpayer in this climate, in this environment. Especially when the team has stunk as bad as it stunk. Let's just be honest. So there's What If Wednesday. 3 questions putting a bow on the 8 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.